Team, I'm going to own right up front that this conversation is just a wee bit uncomfortable and scary for me, but we're going to take this anyway. And I do know that this is posting on my personal feed, and I think it's an important conversation for us to have. I was scrolling through my YouTube this morning, probably during my lunch break, it doesn't matter. And I came across a video via Inside Edition about a TikToker who has recently removed herself from the planet. And the thing that caught my attention about this TikToker was that, for all intents and purposes, for all views on the outside, she seemed happy, lit up, passionate, healthy, all of those things. She is a TikToker who was here. Her whole thing was about, promoting women in agriculture, talking about how much she loved being a farmer for multiple generations, talking about sustainable farming and treating animals well, and all these beautiful, amazing things um, that she wanted to share with the planet. It was the difference that she wanted to make and the light that she wanted to bring, and yet she, as I think they said she was 19 years old, recently took her own life. And what really stood out to me in all of that, I happened to see the comments, because one of the first comments was like, she was the only TikToker I really loved, which spoke to my heart and just made me feel so full that, people were out there watching her, having their lives blessed by her, and how incredible that was. So as I was reading through the comments, some of the great comments turned into unkind comments. And there's one that I wanted to share because I think it's important for us to see the lies and the fallacies in this so we can choose something different as world changers, as leaders, as creators, as magic makers. The person that said the only lesson that should be learned here is how fake social media is. It can't buy happiness. People put on masks to camouflage their feelings. Upon a certain point, they realize the mask may give them attention, but it won't make you feel happy inside. So here's this woman, this beautiful, amazing, bright, shiny star with struggles that we weren't aware of, who removes her own life. And one of the first things that someone wanted to do was to jump in and to add shame to the action that she took. And I kind of hear this a lot as I work in my own circles, not from the people that I work with, but from people once or twice removed from them. This stigma around that we still continue to carry around mental health, the stigma that we still subscribe to suicidality and suicide, and the shame and judgment that we give to it. And today I feel like it's really important that in mental health overall and suicide specific, that we stop adding judgment and shame to the issue, especially inward, especially to ourselves. If we are struggling with mental health, if we are struggling with suicidality, we've got to stop shaming ourselves for what is coming up. Instead, ask ourselves, what do we need to help? So I wanted to point out a couple fallacies and share with you a little bit about my own journey. So the first fallacy I saw in this comment, and I'm just going to share two. I felt like the message this guy was saying, at the bottom line, was you can't lead or seek to change the world and be struggling with mental health issues. Like, there was an assumption there that she was struggling with mental health, so everything she was doing was fake. Okay, and so that can be broken down into, you have to be strong and perfect to lead. And I know that's not just coming from the comment of the random guy on YouTube, but I see this a lot in the circles that I walk through, in the business circles, leadership circles. There's this idea that we have to be almost without flaw. We have to be without struggle in order to be a quote unquote good leader. Heaven forbid anybody see our mistakes. Heaven forbid anybody see our struggles. Okay, and that's especially true in leadership that is shown before us, that we are unable to own our bullshit, because if we were to, then am I really a leader? Am I really a leader if I'm struggling? Am I really a world changer if I too have valleys that I tend to walk through, especially those that suffer from depression, bipolar, anxiety, PTSD, and some of these more long-term issues, whether mental, emotional, physical, or even spiritual. There's an idea that I can't bring spirit to the planet if I don't am not always solid in my own spirit. And I just want to call that out as a lie and a falsehood. Because if we were waiting for people to be perfect, if we actually had to be perfectly strong and perfectly without flaw in order to lead, we'd have zero leaders, team. Zero leaders, because everybody has something that they are struggling with or that they are working through. So the truth from this one is that we can lead and be imperfect at the same time. We can still bring light and hope and goodness to this planet, even though we have days, weeks, months, or maybe even a year that we are struggling to see the light in our own lives, to see that light in ourselves. We can find those moments of hope and share them with the person next to them, even if on the inside we're clinging to that same piece of hope that we're sharing with others. That brings me to my own journey. I'm fairly open about the fact that I've been hospitalized for suicidality. Now, my personal feeds, if you don't follow me in business, you may or may not notice. You may not know this about me. But during the darkest time of my post-traumatic stress disorder, there came a point where I couldn't keep my promise to Joe that I would keep myself on this planet. And when that happened, in conjunction with talking with the therapist and Joe, we decided that it was time that I had to be hospitalized in order to save my life. And so I went into that, and there was so much shame around that in the beginning that I didn't tell anybody. And I didn't want Joe. He might have told someone, but I was like, I don't want anybody to know about this. My family didn't know about this. My siblings didn't know about this. Most of my closest friends didn't know about this. I think I let one person know where I was going for several weeks because I just didn't want the judgment. I already felt so much shame in and of myself. Now, that being said, in hindsight, I want you to know that that was one of the most powerful decisions that I've ever made, because I got in that hospital what I needed to continue my life on this planet. Resources, experiences, insight, understanding. So much of what I learned there has been the basis of what I've been creating in my own life and in my coaching that I do with my clients. So much power. And I learned on the other side of that how to not have shame in that desire to take my own life, to not have judgment in the hardness that is PTSD, to not have judgment around what I'm allowed to feel with my PTSD versus what someone else is allowed. Like it took so much judgment away from my experience and others' experiences, because I learned how not to judge them either. How to be like, your hardness is your hard. And it doesn't matter what your heart is versus what my heart is. It's hard for you. So let's stop trying to compare our hardships and find the hierarchy there. There's no hierarchy. The hierarchy is bullshit. And all that being said, I can still give power, because I want you to know, I think this is really important, that that moment of suicidality wasn't one moment. And I want you to know that it didn't end at the hospital. What I learned how to do was to manage the desire to remove myself from the planet. In fact, 2 years ago, 2019, October of 2019, Joe was away. Things got really dark. And I actually wrote my suicide note to Joe. I wrote my suicide note to my brother, who's living in my house, because I felt like I needed to apologize for what he was going to find. Then I had this moment. I couldn't get a hold of my husband. I didn't want to call anyone else. I was ashamed of even I was so ashamed again of the fact that, oh my gosh, this is happening again. Why is this happening again? Out of all the things I've learned and all the things I've done. And that night I had a choice whether I was going to walk through with it or whether I should take like an oxycodone and knock myself out and maybe deal with it tomorrow. And I ended up choosing into the oxycodone. So I got into my cupboard, took that, went to sleep, and the next day I woke up and I called Joe and I'm like, I'm not okay. So we found something to help me. I got into neurofeedback. It's made a huge difference in my life. I didn't realize how much energy that I was putting into keeping myself on this planet until I got into a neurofeedback therapy that changes the wiring in your brain from a trauma brain to a highly functioning brain. And I was blown away by when those adjustments were made, by how much more energy and life I had, because I wasn't spending it every single moment being like, You got to be here, Deb. It's okay. Life is good. We got this. We can keep going. You're wanted. You're needed. You're doing good things on this planet. And I share this not to make people feel sorry for me, not to like, I'm not searching for anything. I share this because I want you to know that we can be in darkness and we can be struggling and we can still bring light to the world. Not because we have to, not because we should or we've got to lose ourselves in that way, but because it feeds our soul. As long as it feeds your soul, I believe madly, deeply, passionately, wholly that people have the right to live in true authenticity. And in that authenticity, they will find freedom like they've never experienced before. I believe in the need and desire to love ourselves so fully and unconditionally that we can never be swayed. We are like absolute and resolute in that love and grace and forgiveness for self. And I can offer that to the world even when there are days where I grab my pillow, I grab my blanket, I head to the closet, I close the door, and I sob. Because this particular day or this particular moment, all of the things connected to my life experience are too much. I want you to know that too. If you're a leader and a world changer, if you lead teams, if you lead communities, if you want to lead teams and communities someday, if you want to make a difference on this planet, you do not have to be perfect in order for you to make a difference. And in our imperfections, there is actually strength. And in our imperfections and our vulnerabilities, there is power to help others. Because we are not the only one going through shit right now. And we are not the only one who needs to know that if I can just hang on one more day, then maybe tomorrow it can be better. And I can keep doing that till I get to a place where it's not just maybe tomorrow. I know tomorrow it will be better. Okay? So the second fallacy that came out of that comment to me was this whole trying to add our light to the world while hurting is attention seeking. Notice how I said that at the end. Oh, you're just trying to get attention, but you need to know that it's really not happiness. And I gotta call bullshit on that, because if you're a leader and a world changer, you know it's not about attention. You know it's about making a difference. Because what he's really saying is, AKA, you are a liar. Like, you're a big fat liar, liar, pants on fire. You just want attention. And I'm here to say that that girl, she was not here to get attention. And I know I can't speak for her in totality. I can't speak to why she did, why she didn't. I can't speak to that. But in just the few things that I've watched from her, that was not someone who was seeking attention. That was someone who was adding their passion to the world while somewhere in the background struggling with things that many of us do not understand. And it is not ours to try and figure out, and it's not ours to try to like understand. It's like it happened, and all we need to do is feel grief for her. But for those of us that are still, or and, not but and those of us that are still here when you're struggling, you are not a liar. Okay? Because the truth is out of this that as much goodness as there is in lifting others, okay, we must take care of ourselves. And that's the title that I gave to this live stream today. That as much as we can show up and be a light to the world, and that's good, and there's wholeness in that, and I believe in that, and I send so much love to this girl and her family and her desires. I think her desires are so really powerful and can continue to make a difference in the lives of others, the work that she has done before she left this planet. We must remember to take care of ourselves, that instead of trying to hide, or instead of trying to, and I'm not saying she did these things, that's not what I'm saying at all. Let me speak from my own experience. Instead of trying to hide the pain, instead of trying to ignore the pain, instead of trying to pretend that in some way, shape, or form I've got to be strong, which means I've got to like not allow that pain to influence me. If we can instead recognize when we are tired, recognize when we are burnt out, recognize when we are exhausted, when we are sad, when we are hurt, when we are anxious, when we are afraid. If we can instead recognize what we are actually experiencing it, and instead of judging it, asking it questions. Deb, why do you feel so afraid today? Deb, why do you feel so much grief today? Deb, why are you so sad today? And Deb, what do you need? What is going to help you to move forward through this? What is going to help you manage this? Okay? And that can be a variety. There's no one size fits all. When it comes to taking care of ourselves, we've got to understand what's in our toolbox. We've got to continually add to our toolbox, and we've got to be willing to reach into that toolbox and pull out what we need when we need it, or be willing to switch it up when the same thing isn't working. Most of the time, for anyone that works with me or is in any of my groups, you know that I am a consistent write and burner. It happens. I try to get it done every day. If not, it's happening at least like several times a week that I'm writing and burning, because I know it's powerful, but there are times when even write and burn isn't helping me. And instead of throwing in the towel and being like, okay, well, it's not working anymore, I'm broken. And believe me, I do that sometimes. I do. There is a what's next, and we can take that tool and we can either rework it or we can find something different. As I said, there are also moments where I just need to cry. And so I will grab my pillow and I will grab my blanket and I will go into my closet and close the door and I will lay on the ground and I will sob big, fat, ugly cry tears. And I'm okay with that, because that is what my soul needs in that moment. And instead of judging myself or feeling shame about choosing into that, I'm simply going to choose. And then I'm going to seek for anything to fill me back in. Not anything, the best things to fill me back in. So I'm going to invite you to look at your toolbox, or look at your backpack is the other phrase I like to give it. Like, we're on a journey. That's how I like to see it. We're on a journey. We're backpacking through the wilderness. As much as people know, including myself, ain't nobody been everywhere before. Okay? It's your path. It's your journey. But what do you need in your backpack to survive? What do you need in your backpack to be edified? What's going to help you continue on the days when you just got to give up? And maybe on those days you're like, Deb, what I need is the pillow and the blanket in the closet, because I ain't going anywhere today. And that's okay. But also know, who can you rely on? That has shifted for me tremendously over time. And I've been more open about my suicidality with more and more people, because I found better people, people I can trust, to love me through the process, to not judge me when I'm in pain, to not tell me, why are you here again? And why can't you get over it? And why aren't you better yet? It's been over a decade, Deb. Why isn't it? Why aren't you, you've done this and you've done this. Why? I don't know. I don't even know that answer. I don't know. But I do know that what I'm doing and the tools I put in my backpack and the new ones I glean every day, I'm a huge fan of neurofeedback, huge fan of write and burn, huge fan of understanding your chakras, your auras, and energy healing, huge fan of therapy. And as needed, huge fan of medication, whether that's natural medications like microdosing and marijuana, or prescription medications. Understand what you need in your backpack and release the judgment. Because it doesn't matter what the F other people think should be in your backpack, or think what you should use or not use to help yourself. It doesn't matter. What matters is, what do you need to help you be better? And what combination of things do you need to help you through the process? I will never forget an article I read shortly after being in the hospital and navigating suicidality, and coming across this article, because there's a lot of conversation around how suicide is selfish. Oh, you didn't think about anyone else. You only thought about yourself. If you're one of those, I'm going to invite you to pause and reset your perspective, because suicide, it is not easy. That decision is not easy. And if you think that you can sit there and judge someone from the outside, I'm going to call you on your bullshit, and I'm going to tell you to get in alignment with yourself and your higher power. I don't know a nicer way to say that. Cut the crap. Okay? Suicide, and I love this article. I'm just going to boil it down to one little comment, which was, suicide happens when the pain that we are experiencing outweighs the resources we have at our disposal. Okay, when the pain of what we're experiencing outweighs the resources. That's really what happens, that in that moment, the pain is too great for what we have in our backpack. And so we choose in to release the pressure. It's a pressure valve. Okay? And so we turn to it as a pressure valve. Now, if that's you and you're struggling with suicide, please, I think I posted it in the comments at the top, or the title at the top. Call someone. There's the National Suicide Prevention Line. Please call someone. Please reach out to someone. Please connect with someone who can see you, love you, support you, and be with you in the process. Not in a judgy, freak out way, but in a way that says, I love you. I am so grateful you're on this planet. And if you can't feel my love, and if you can't understand my love, that's okay. I'm still here to sit with you, and I'm still here to walk you through the process of choosing back into this life. Leaders, you're going to hear a lot from me. I don't know for how long. It's just the message I've been given. We've got to take care of ourselves. So many of us who have been trying to speak, not trying, speaking. So many of us who have been speaking and impassioning and emboldening and lighting up the world and offering hope, our souls are weary because we've done so much in giving out here that we have forgotten to give right here. That we're like, okay, one more day, and then self, you and I are going to get together and we're going to take care of this. Just one more day, just hold on. I keep telling my body and my soul the same thing. But guess what? Time's up. Not one more day. Please take care of yourself today. So whatever it is you need, please choose into it. And if you need support, if you need love, if whatever it is, tap me on the shoulder. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out how I can support you. Okay? But make sure you have those people in your life. Make sure you refer back to your backpack, your toolbox. Make sure that you know that you're important. And unlike this bullshit comment on YouTube, may you always know that the light that you give to the world, even amidst your struggle, is valuable and important. And you don't owe the world anything. And the world is grateful. The peoples whose lives you have blessed, they are grateful for the way that you have showed up to serve them. So wherever you're going today, know that you're seen. Know that you're loved. Know that you matter. Thank you for the ways in which you light up this world. And let us always, always, always be willing to take care of this, ourselves, our soul, our mental, emotional, our physical bodies, our spiritual bodies. Let us always be willing to take care of this so we can continue to bless this. Okay, that's it. I'm out. I talked too long, but I love you. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.